Hey everybody, Chris with Coalition Gaming here, as well as Chris, HomeBrewedHero, our resident water cooling expert.
What's up?
We got something coming for you guys. This is a brand new build that I haven't done a brand new build in probably 7 or 8 years. All new parts for the most part, except for drives. That's okay. And yeah, this is going to be awesome. I want to give thanks to Swiftech for sending over water cooling gear that we'll be checking out later on in this video for you guys, as well as Easy DIY Fab for sending over these RGB stuffs that we'll also see in the build process. What do you think of all this, Chris?
After looking at everything, I'm telling you, Swiftech, guys make some good stuff. I'm a big EK person, so if you haven't followed my channel, take a look at it, but there's a lot of EK stuff. Almost everything I do is EK parts. I'll tell you what, this pump and pump head rock solid. So as we get into it, we'll talk about it a lot more, but overall, this is going to be a seriously solid build. And this is his first guy's build, like he said, in a long time. He's one of the only people in our group that has not built himself a new build, so if anyone's deserving of it, is this dude. So
right on. And his channel will be linked in the description below, so make sure you check that out.
Very cool.
So let's go over the parts in this here, my first new build in a very long time. I want it to look good and perform very good. And as far as looking good, I got these Easy DIY sleeved power supply extension cables, as well as Easy DIY. This one's going to be interesting. Kind of hard to tell, but we'll show you guys a little closer. They're RGB cable cones. So that's going to be an interesting look, and we're going to try that out. We have a Corsair Vengeance 750M power supply. It's a semi-modular, so that should be plenty of power, and it's a decent quality PSU. G-Skill Trident Z RGB CL17 RAM. Now, the CL17 on the RAM has shown in other videos and other benchmarks that I've seen that it's just as good for gaming as CL14 3200 megahertz RAM, but for all-around performance, it works out a little bit better. And since we're also content creators and making YouTube videos, I need the speed, 3600 megahertz. Graphics card, we went with the GeForce RTX 2060 Super. And the EVGA version that lights up RGB is going to look good because we're going to be doing a vertical mount with it with the Cooler Master Universal vertical mount. Now, something that's a big deal is the CPU, Ryzen 9 3900X 12-core behemoth. This is going to be an amazing CPU for everything that I do, gaming, content creation, streaming, all of it. And then to cool it, we have the Swiftech Boreas kit, and it's using the 200mm pump res combo. We have the light up LED, I believe it's the SKFLT block, the Apogee, and then we're going to be using a bunch of the Swiftech fittings. They come with the compression fittings if you spec it out that way. It's a 360mm rad, so it is a 27 or 28mm thick, but what do you think of the rad, dude? Because I know you run thicker rads.
I run thicker rads, yeah. And the other thing to keep in mind with this radiator is you can probably see it on the camera when you twist it, but it's actually relatively low fins per inch, so you don't need to have static pressure optimized fans to get the most cooling out of this. So that's kind of nice. They thought about that when they built this kit. So, other than that, it's very well built, and we already flushed and cleaned it, and it didn't have a bunch of junk in it. Like, I'm very familiar with some of the Alpha Cool and EK rads, lots of junk in them. So
speaking of those fans, we got the Helix 120 Iris. These are going to be addressable RGB fans. There's going to be 3 on the rad and then 3 on the top of the case. And overall, I'm looking forward to doing all the water cooling on this, my first custom loop. And being my first custom loop, I really don't want to deal with too many maintenance issues, so I'm going to go with coolants for the liquid. However, Swiftech sends this pastel fluid that you can dye with different colors. It's made by Mayhems. As far as I'm concerned, it's a really good coolant from what I hear, and maybe you can speak quickly to it because you have a little bit of experience with it.
The Mayhem stuff is top notch, and as a matter of fact, the tubing that they include in the kit is also Mayhem's Ultra Clear Soft, which this tubing is fantastic. No plasticizers, won't leach. The reason, like Chris said, that we're going with the coolants is because it's not a nanofluid, there's less of a likelihood for it to gunk up and clog your blocks. Not saying that this does do that, because Monstera Deliciosa, the build we did, we actually used the same coolant and dyed it, and that went past its lifespan, serviceable lifespan. No problems in that system other than mild discoloration to the tubing. But that's because we dyed it. So, you know, a little bit of pros and cons there.
So we'll have more on the performance of this Swiftech kit as far as cooling of the 12-core Ryzen later on in the video, so look forward to that. So back to the CPU. The motherboard that we're going with is a Gigabyte Aorus X570 Elite. This is 12 plus 2 phase VRM, and it's going to be a fantastic motherboard for this use. And it's all going to be housed in a case that I've been wanting to use for such a long time, and I'm so happy finally I'm going to get to do a build in it, and it's going to be my own build, the Lanley PC011 Dynamic. This is such a nice looking case.
And it's a departure for you from what you normally would build.
I'm always doing dark builds, that at least for myself, I've always, look at the RG Beasts in the past, Red Beast, everything dark. And I'm going bright white. Here we go.
He's ascending.
So if you guys want to check out any of the stuff that we're talking about, everything will be linked in the description below, as well as that Monstera Deliciosa build that he did. And it's an amazing build, so make sure you guys watch that video.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So while Bergs is getting ready on some of the water cooling gear, we're going to be dropping in the CPU right now, and I'll be taking care of more of the standard stuff that gets installed in the PC up until we get to the point where we both need to work on all that Swiftech goodness.
Alright, so what we're doing now is we're test fitting everything, and you always need a Sharpie, even on a black case. And what we're doing is we're trying to figure out where we're going to mount the pump specifically in here. So Chris is unboxing the 90-degree adapter for the GPU, so he can verify that once this is mounted in here in the 90-degree adapter, as you can see, it's real tight clearances. So I could go a little bit farther forward, but I'm trying to keep everything in line with the radiator for aesthetic reasons. I want it to look nice as well as function nicely. So this is what we're doing. Drawing little circles in the indentations here so we know where I need to drill once we make sure everything fits.
Getting ready to install some of the case fans. We already installed the fans on the rad, and I got an extra set to put onto the top of the case as exhaust, but these are Swiftech Helix 120 fans, 18 LEDs, check them out right there, 65 CFM, goes up to 2000 RPM. They're supposed to be quieter than 33 dBA, so we'll see exactly how true that is when it comes to checking it all out, but they look like good fans, whether you're going to get them for case fans or radiators, and I like that you can, you know, you got RGB in them, of course. So let's get to it. So Easy DIY sent out some stuff to make this build look even prettier, and that means addressable RGB strips. They're also magnetic and 3M backed, so it's going to be double-sided tape, magnetic, pretty easy to mount, which is nice. They got a little splitter so you can connect them both up, and also a remote in case you don't have motherboard control. So this remote also, in the bag, you get a connector to power them up. So you don't need an RGB header to run these and be able to change all the colors, which is nice. But they also sent out something interesting, and that's this product, RGB cable combs. These RGB cable combs is something that maybe not for everybody, but it's a look that I definitely want to at least check out and see how it looks in the computer. And they got 2 for the 24 pin, and it looks like a handful more for your 8 pin and your 6 pin, and other 8 pin for the GPU and CPU, all laid out right here. Same thing, you don't need an RGB header on your motherboard in order to use them. They can be powered up by your power supply, and you have that control with the remote again. It's an RF wireless remote. Or you can get them into your motherboard and have full motherboard control of all the RGB together, which would be nice. And again, these are addressable 5 volt. They use the standard 3 pin, but it's like the 4 pin connector with 1 pin blocked off. And yeah, all pretty good. And I'm hoping this is gonna look good when it all is said and done.
Boom.
Alright, so when it comes to custom water cooling though, there are a few best practices that you really should, it's a must honestly, is you have to fill your loop with distilled water first, which will work as a system flush in a way, something that you sort of should have done ahead of time as well as just sort of cleaning the parts out, but this will work all together as a system flush and a leak test. So after we're done talking about this right now, I'm going to put some paper towels down to make sure that nothing gets wet. That is crucial. And we're going to fill this thing up with some distilled water and test it out. So make sure that's something that you guys always do when it comes to testing any water cooling kit, including this Swiftech Boreas kit.
So we got this all put together now. We're doing a leak test, but so far we have no leaks. So far, big success. Whenever you do these, shove your paper towels on the fittings and then give them a test. Touch test.
So now that the leak test is complete and everything is good, an important thing to do is, well, we set up a ball valve to do a drain. Now it's really easy to service a loop if you have a drain. You can still do that if you don't, and most kits don't have them, including this Boreas kit. But additional fittings and a T like this ball valve will definitely take care of that. And now that we're done, we just gotta undo the plug and then open the valve. So let's undo this plug. You might get a drip of water, but it shouldn't be. Boom, and then I'm just gonna drain it into this Powerade cup. And there we go. So now we're going to drain out all the distilled water, then fill it up with the coolant that we selected.
There you go. There you go. There you go. Sick. Sick. It's just slow and steady wins the race with this. Because now you're fucking with $20 worth of coolant essentially, so you don't want to squirt it all over everything. And once you get to about half the bottle, then you flip it upside down. I just never recommend doing it all the way upside down until you get some out, just so you know it's not going to leak past what you're doing. need that 12 volt.
Yeah.
For all of your LEDs.
Shit. All right, I'm turn to, oh.
Oh, maybe not. We spoke too soon. Oh, there we go.
And it went to your favorite color.
Sick.
That's weird that it did that.
Yeah.
Right? That looks cool though. Are we sure all of them are on?
Yeah. Yeah, they're all on. And they're all synced. Except this. This is doing its own separate thing.
That needs its own softwares.
Here.
So now that the build is complete and we've had some time to play around with the water cooling, gotta say we didn't run into any issues with leaks. Everything felt really high quality. Everything synced up good as far as the lighting for the fans that go on the radiator. Install process was pretty great up until the point where we had to drill, but that is advertised in the manual that you may need to drill, so nothing unexpected, honestly. What did you think?
I thought it went together super seamlessly. And the quality of the fittings in here, if you're thinking about piecing together your own loop on the super cheap, forget going, online and looking at barrow fittings. Just buy a kit like this, because I even made the comment when we were building this. I've used the barrow fittings. I've used a ton of different manufacturers. The elbow fittings that we chose for this build, they weren't included in the kit, but the ones that we chose and the compression fittings, they were all the same quality, which speaks to how good the Swiftech kit is, because the pieces were solid.
Yeah. And the Swiftech kit by itself isn't even all that expensive. You can configure it with barb fittings instead of compression fittings if that's something you want to do to save on cost. Recommend that you don't do that. But it is configurable. You can do single 120, dual 120, or triple 120. So 120 mil rad, 240 or 360. Depending on what you need, and it's really nice. The fact that it's open loop means that you can eventually even add your GPU into the loop or other stuff like that. That's something that I may do down the line with one of these, and we'll see where Swiftech stands on their GPU blocks at that point in time. As far as the temperature performance on this Ryzen 12 core, we'll have that up on screen right now. Okay, so here we are with the temperatures. So the board is a Gigabyte Aorus X570 Elite on BIOS F4G with the most up-to-date Ryzen chipset driver. That's the new one that released on July 31st. So we've been using the Ryzen High Performance Power Plan to try to get the most performance out of this, although we'll get back to that a little bit later. So at stock speeds, the Ryzen 9 3900X with the stock cooler out of the box, just with the pre-applied thermal paste and everything, PBO off, we idled in the 50s. Prime 95 blend ran for 20 minutes, and we peaked at 89C. I can't say that was entirely unexpected, but it did seem a little high to me, so yeah. PBO on, but with the stock cooler, and everything else stock, just no overclocks, just PBO on. Idled in the 50s. Prime 95 blend for 20 minutes, peaked at 94C. Again, I'm starting to get a little worried, but I didn't see any negative throttling. There is some other stuff I'll get into though. So anyways, now with the Swiftech Boreas 360 kit with the custom PWM pump fan profile, what we did with that was it would run 60% minimum, then at 80 or 85C, it would ramp up to 100% on the fans and the pump. So PBO off, we idled again in the 40 and 50s. I didn't see an improvement there. And then peak 89C. So that was the same peak as out of the box. So I had to do a little digging, but again, we'll get into that shortly. PBO on, all clocks stayed over 4 gigahertz for far longer than with PBO off, so that was nice. It was nice to see a little bit of a benefit from the water cooling. It looks like the water cooling was helping out with overall clock frequencies and stuff like that. It idled in the 40 to 50s again, and Prime 95 blend 20 minutes again, peaked 94C. So well, let's move on to the gaming temperatures, just because we'll be talking about this a little more, like I keep saying. Average temp while playing PUBG was in the 60s C. That's honestly seems fine to me, I suppose. Average temp while playing Apex Legends was in the 70s C. Again, coming from where I was coming from before, none of this seems crazy to me. And then the average temp while gaming plus streaming, that's it, plus streaming, using the X264 CPU intensive encoder at fast CPU preset was 70C. That's double the duty here, and it was definitely handling it without a problem. So a lot of these temp issues seem to be related to the way that Ryzen and AMD handle auto boosting and the voltage related to the boosting. So it looks like it's something that they're still working the kinks out, and well, the temperatures here reflect that. I'm not the only one having this issue, not on this board either. It's happening across multiple kinds of boards. And anyway, so experimenting with manual voltages with PBO off and on led to slightly better temperature results, but nothing exactly worth mentioning. So what I'm thinking is happening is that the Ryzen 3000 series boosting behavior, which if you watch Gamers Nexus or anything like that, they say this stuff essentially now works more like GPU boost. Now, the better the cooling you give it, the better it will do. And that's what we did. We gave it better cooling, and it's a lot, I feel like it was more stable and it was performing better with the water cooling kit. And it's essentially seeing that overhead, to me, it's essentially seeing all that overhead and then just adjusting accordingly so the temps don't necessarily reflect that. That's just my ideology on that. I don't know how accurate or true it could be. That's just what I'm thinking. But this behavior results in spikes that make it look like even custom water cooling isn't exactly enough. And so while the temperatures in comparison to the stock cooler don't exactly look great, or they look a little off-putting, I have to say this: I experienced far better stability with the water cooling kit installed. Before I did that on the stock cooler with Prime 95, it would drop workers, it would drop cores, and I had to restart it a bunch of times to be able to get it going right and actually stay running with all cores. And I didn't have that problem after I installed the water cooling kit. It was smooth sailing with zero issues. And I guess, you know, that's all you can really ask for, I suppose, in a way. So even though temperatures do look like they're a little bit on the high side, I'm not the only one reporting this kind of behavior with or without custom water cooling. With all that being said, the benefits that I've seen while running this Boreas kit from Swiftech has me voting a thumbs up for it. It gets the job done. especially for the money. It's actually a pretty affordable kit, and that says a lot. The bigger issue here is that something is up with the way that AMD is still trying to fine-tune the voltages and the boosting behavior of the Ryzen 3000 series. And well, in situations like this, reviews of coolers and cooling equipment, it can have a sort of weird effect on the temperatures in the end. Nothing was unstable though. Everything ran great. The streaming tests, benchmarks, games, nothing had an issue. So overall, I think the Swiftech kit is really nice. So I'm pretty happy with the Boreas. All right, let's get back out there. So there you have it. The temperature performance versus the stock cooler is definitely an improvement. But with all the good stuff that we just said, there are still a few negatives, and let's talk about those.
So I've got a lot of experience with water cooling, as I've said before. This system, super good entry point. Even if you're already a little bit familiar with water cooling, but you're doing a second system, still I'd recommend it. The only cons I can really say is I wish the radiator was a little bit more dense on the fins per inch, because I feel like for a 360, for as thin as it is, they could have put the fins a little bit more dense, give you a little bit more cooling performance. The second thing is, as good as those compression fittings were, they were a nightmare to get nice and seated. Just because of the knurling on the collar. The collar was a little bit aggressive to the point where, yeah, you get grip on it, but it'll chew your hands to bits.
I really hurt my wrist actually tightening some of those, but
exactly.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is just, these are all little nitpicky things, is this pump mount. You have two pump mount options. You have a oh my God. You have two pump mount options with this kit. You have a bottom mount, which is what we've gone with, or you can use like a tube collar that holds on to the aluminum uprights. Neither of those come with vibration dampening, which might not sound like a big deal, but if you're used to like the EK stuff or the XSPC stuff, you know that comes with dampeners to knock the vibration down from the pump. Again, super nitpicky, but that's the only thing I can find wrong with it. So it's a good kit, really good kit.
Awesome, good to hear.
Yeah.
So hopefully you guys like the Swiftech stuff on all this, and well, I guess it's time for closing remarks. So let's get to it. So in case I didn't touch on it enough before, this is the Swiftech coolant that comes included with the kit, and it comes included with multiple dyes for you to get it to whatever color you want. Now, HomeBrewedHero's experience with this coolant, he says it's top notch. It's my first custom water cool build. I didn't want to deal with too much maintenance stuff, and that's why I went with coolants. However, I have 100% sure, like in my head, that I'm sure that this would have been absolutely fine to use in place of it. You could probably go like a year on this stuff. It's just that going 2 years on coolants sounds a little bit easier for me to deal with. And speaking of the coolants, I know that it's not filled up all the way. Well, that's ultimately because I got a really big reservoir and I didn't order enough coolants. More of it is on the way, so we'll be filling that up. Don't you guys worry. So this system is going to be my new main personal system for gaming, streaming, content creation, you name it. 12 cores, 24 threads in that Ryzen 9 3900X. So awesome. 32 gigs of RAM, RTX 2060 Super. I know that I can do X264 now when I'm streaming with this CPU because I got the extra cores and threads available, but to be able to fall back on the Turing NVENC encoder on that GPU is definitely something that's really nice to have. This case, long time ago, earlier days of PC building and gaming, I thought Lanley was one of those brands that was out of reach. Always very expensive, boutique kind of cases, but here I am all these years later with the Lanley case, and this O11 Dynamic is an absolutely beautiful case. I really like how everything fits in this case. It's really easy to do wire management. Everything just looks so good in this case, and the Cooler Master vertical stand in it fits perfectly. I don't know, this is my dream computer right here, and I'm just so excited to really start to get to use it more. So, with all that said, only one more thing left to do. Got some stickers to put on.
Okay. Where's your squeegee? Where's your credit card?
So that's it for my dream PC build. I want to thank Swiftech, Easy DIY, and HomeBrewedHero for helping me out with it. This is, I don't know, I just can't wait to start using it. So if you guys like this video, click that like button. subscribe. We always got more coming, and I'm going to be streaming with this. So catch us on our weekly streams Thursday, 8 p.m. Pacific, and hit all our socials, Twitter, Instagram, all that. It's linked in the description below. Again, all products used here, all this stuff, if you wanted to check it all out, will be linked in the description below. And with all that said, thank you all for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.